Hey, how's it going, man?
Good enough.
Hey, how's it going? Yeah. So, I just wanted to talk to you about what you think about the possibility of aliens. Because if all of this is just a scientific process that's repeatable, then shouldn't any planet that undergoes the Stanley Miller's conditions have life on it? If so, where are the aliens?
Well, so I feel like this was a few questions. I think aliens are possible. I don't have any beliefs beyond that.
Hmm.
Uh, I I guess I believe it would be absurd if we're the only living things out there. But
Hmm.
as far as a answer to the Fermi paradox, I don't have a solution to it myself. But just because life evolves doesn't mean that complex life that's capable of putting things in space and understanding the way the universe around them exists. I mean, that that only happened very recently here on Earth, and it only happened, like, you could argue, a few times. We're the only ones that have put stuff in space, but our other relatives probably understood, like, how the universe works around them to some
Wait.
extent.
Life came recently on Earth?
No, life with these specific qualities.
Yeah, just
Oh,
to
right.
like
Yeah.
critically think
Intelligent.
and
That's what I
things
mean.
like that.
So we had billions of years of
Isn't that
life
where
existing
evolution
on.
goes, though?
Well, no, there's no inevitability with evolution, right? Except that organisms will adapt and continue to survive unless some insurmountable natural catastrophe happens. But producing intelligent life that does the kinds of things that we're capable of doing is not an inevitability of evolution, is what I would say.
Well,
So there
technology is,
being
right? Because
aliens doesn't mean
technology's a
there
part of
are
it.
spacefaring things all over the place.
Technology's a part of evolution, though, right? Like, wouldn't you say that
No.
things always go towards? So why is it that the most recently evolved beings tend to use technology? Like, they're able to use tools. You know what I'm saying? Like, we're able to use tools.
I mean, we have no idea if, like, velociraptors may have talked to each other. I really doubt it. I really don't think they did. But maybe they did. And
No,
maybe
yeah,
they
just
maybe
talking
they used
technology.
tools in a way. Like, they definitely could have. And that's like a very, 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 very long time ago.
Well, that's the most advantageous thing, right? Because evolution is based off of what's advantageous.
Well,
Isn't
it can
technology
be.
the most advantageous?
No. I mean, humans
Then
may
why
we
have
may
we been
render
able to take
ourselves
over the world
extinct
so?
with technology, but tardigrades would continue living.
Well, how
So
how
there's
did
no
we
there's no
get to this
advantage
point,
there.
though? Where we're able to control the earth, we're able to manipulate the climate. I mean, we're clearly the most powerful
Anyways,
organism, right? So
yeah,
how did
but I
we
mean,
get there?
we may have sowed the seeds for our own destruction, but other life will continue.
I'm not. I know, but even if it has sown the seeds for destruction, it still is a point in evolution technology
Yeah.
because
Well,
that's what's
it's
most
something
advantageous.
that happened to us, but that doesn't make it part of evolution, I don't think.
Can you give me an example where organic life would be able to evolve faster than technology? Because that's not been seen.
Well, I
I mean,
well,
maybe for
oh
bacteria,
no,
but
I think it has because bacteria become resistant to antibiotics.
well, we didn't evolve the antibiotics. We just took them from fungus.
Oh
That's
no,
not
but we make
technology.
antibiotics. Well, no, we make
No. The
antibiotics,
fungus.
and that is
Okay, where
technology.
does penicillin come from?
It came from mold, but then we've developed, like,
Right,
where
and
where
where
does a spear come from? Well, it starts off as a tree and a rock, right? So we took
we
it from
can't.
the living
So
thing.
penicillin, it has a four carbon ring, right? We're not capable of making that. Not with technology.
We make Okay. There are synthetic antibiotics. I don't know if why can't I
With
think of
organic
the name of an
precursors.
antibiotic off the top of my head? But we make synthetic
Well,
antibiotics. It's
almost all of
definitely
them have
technology.
organic precursors. That's actually part of the problem because we're not able to make antibiotic technology. That's why we have antibiotic resistance. If we were able to synthetically create a four-membered carbon ring, we just don't have the means to do that. If we were able to do that, then yes, we probably could create a three-membered carbon ring and create a much stronger penicillin. So if technology is a part of that road, we've already built AIs. It's not going to be long, probably another century if we can make it that long, which even if we don't, that doesn't mean other civilizations haven't. We'll be launching AIs out into space and we'll be looking at them, right? So where are the AIs? Where is the energy source powering that, right? Because these things would be able to outlive even us.
Where are they? I don't know.
That I know. So that's what I'm getting at. So can all of this exist without a god if we're the only ones here?
Can all this exist without a god if we're the only ones here?
Yeah.
If we
it's
were
not
the
God
only
in
life,
India,
then that would mean that
would there
God
be
must
other
exist and specially created us.
No, I don't think God specially created us. But I'm just saying, if aliens aren't here, then there should be some form of a God, right? I'm not even saying specifically that he only
know.
created us.
That seems
However,
kind of
in this
dumb.
vicinity, we're the only ones, right? There's no energy source. We have pretty strong telescopes. We have gamma ray detectors. We haven't found anything emitting a large amount of energy in space.
Well, that's not necessarily true. I mean, it depends on what you're considering, right? Because if we're trying to figure out what other planets, like what, their makeup is, let's say in their atmosphere, we would use spectroscopy, for example. If they're too far away, there's a different method, but spectroscopy is what I'm familiar with. And,
Right.
I mean,
What
we
type?
have found other planets.
Infrared.
What do you mean? What types? I'm saying
type
just
of-
by
what type of
studying
spectroscopy?
the light that comes off of it. So we can use
So,
infrared
like,
would
are we
work.
like
That would be fine. But
infrared?
I mean to determine the actual makeup of what's on the planet. So we could use the whole spectrum. Probably not visible because then we could just see it. But
Right. So let's say somebody was harvesting, like a lot of people have talked about a Type 4 civilization, where essentially you harvest the energy from a sun completely,
yeah,
right?
like a Dyson
And we
sphere or
would be able
something.
to detect. Yeah. That's what it's called, the Dyson sphere. So why haven't we detected that in space?
There have been things that they've discovered that they
The
thought
percentage of
may
things
be
we've even
potential.
looked at is absurdly low.
And I was going to say there
Well, yeah,
actually
but
is something that they
a lot
have
of-
looked into. I actually just looked at it the other day. I would have to remember what it's called, where they said, is it a potential? Sure. Are they saying that's what it is? Obviously not, but there was a certain type of star where they were seeing it dimming and then getting brighter, and they were able to rule out like an actual planet transiting in front of it. Now, I'm not saying that's absolute proof that that's what's happening, because they're not even saying that. But are they ruling it out? No, of course not.
So, like, the farthest exoplanet we've found is apparently about 13,000 light years away, but that's a gas planet where the idea of
So how do
intelligent
you know
life
about
being
the
on.
Big Bang? Let me ask you that.
What was that?
How do you know about the Big Bang?
The
The
expansion of the
universe
universe?
expands.
Well, how do we know how long ago it happened?
They take the rate at which the expansion is occurring and they extrapolate backwards from that.
From what? That's the background microwave radiation, right? Or
No,
No, but-
the current rate
well-
of expansion, like the further out you go,
That's
if you
what
were
that-
to
that's
turn
what
that
the number-
backwards. Yeah, so like imagine you just flip that the other way. So instead of just looking at the
Well, what
acceleration, we
measure-
could reverse that and we could
So
come
we-
to a conclusion that it was at a singular point.
Yeah, so we didn't have the kind of resolution to get a good date on the Big Bang until fairly recently. In the 90s, they were like, it's between 9 and 20 billion years old, but we don't have the resolution to be able to tell. So it was like I think it was at the very end of the 90s or the really early 2000s, we got a number right around 14 billion years, and it's only
Right.
deviated
and
a
that
little
comes
bit
from
from
the
that.
cosmic microwave background radiation. So we
I
can measure
believe it
radiation
comes
that's
from the
billions of
expan-
years old, right?
It comes from the
But we can't
redshift
measure.
of
Yeah.
it comes from the redshift of the most distant galaxies. I'm not sure if it directly relies on the CMB alone. It's probably part of it, but anyways.
But if we can measure radiation that's billions of years old, why would we not be able to do the same with Dyson spheres? Why would we not be able to measure that? Because that would emit a large amount of gamma rays, right?
Well, yes, but the thing with the CMB radiation is that radiation exists everywhere in the universe, whereas I don't know why a Dyson sphere would emit gamma radiation, but even if it did,
Because of the large
It's-
amount of power producing
the large amount of what?
electricity power, like it would be doing.
Okay,
kilojoules,
a Dyson
right?
a Dyson sphere would not make more energy than the sun. It is.
No.
Right,
But the
it can't.
the absorption of it would, right? Because we would be
No, it
leaving
can't
things
make more
behind.
energy
We would
than
be
the sun is
absorbing
producing.
So would they absorb the entire spectrum of the wavelength with the Dyson sphere? Because there would be some wavelengths left
It can't
behind,
be
right?
100% efficient.
Right, so, exactly. So there's going to be some rays left behind. Why
haven't
aren't we
answered your
detecting
question
these rays?
yet.
Because that would create irregularity.
So
All right, my bad. I'm
okay,
back.
here's the problem with this. The CMB radiation is literally everywhere in the entire universe, whereas if somebody builds a Dyson sphere somewhere, it only emits energy from that one specific place, right? So the odds that and energy weakens, like that type of energy weakens with the inverse of the square of the distance. So the strength of the signal drops off exponentially, right? So the odds that we would be able to detect that are like preposterous unless it's like literally in our own small intergalactic neighborhood, or sorry, intragalactic neighborhood.
Well, we could see outside that, right, with telescopes, right? Like we're able to detect.
Yeah, but
and
you
we
wouldn't,
have-
you wouldn't
we
be
have
able to pick
like
up the
that-
gamma ray signature from a Dyson sphere independent of the hundreds of billions of galaxy or stars in that galaxy where that Dyson sphere is located.
No, we wouldn't have to be pointing it directly at it. I mean, there's gamma detectors that we've sent out into space, right? We haven't seen any irregularities, though. People have looked at this stuff when they've tried to find white holes in the past. They really haven't found any.
Right.
That's
Like-
why there's no evidence of white holes, for example.
Yeah.
Well,
So
white
we just
holes
we don't have
were
the
ruled out
resolution to be able to see these things. So this problem is worse than trying to look at Mars with the naked eye and determining if there's living things on it. We don't have the resolution for it. That doesn't mean that we've ruled it out. It just means that we don't have
Well,
the
no,
resolution
but we could see several billion light years. So, for example,
Yes,
the
but
high
at extraordinarily low resolution. Dude,
So
look,
why
okay,
haven't we seen any-
let me
we
just
haven't
get
seen
this
any
one point out really quick. Before we went to Pluto with the New Horizons spacecraft, we had no clue what it looked like. We knew it was like yellowish, grayish, kind of. But the Hubble telescope, which can see billions and billions and billions of light years, has such low resolution for trying to look at Pluto that like the clearest picture we had of it was only like maybe a couple of pixels, like extremely low, right? So we had no idea what Pluto actually looked like. So any of these technologies that can see really far, that doesn't mean that we have the resolution to discern if there are Dyson spheres or living things on them. Like not even close. They're way too far away. Pluto is about 4 billion miles from Earth. How far is it? Pluto, I think, is like 7 billion kilometers from Earth. But the nearest star is 4.25 light years, and a light year is 10 trillion kilometers. So I mean, Pluto is like literally thousands. I mean, it's several thousand times closer, and we don't have the resolution to make anything out on it, right?
Well, wavelengths don't change over time, right?
Yes, they do. That's why
Like
the
gamma
CMB
ray
radiation
don't-
is microwave
All right,
instead
all
of
right,
gamma.
Yeah, you're right. With relativity, with quantum mechanics, right? Because we're not talking about that many billions of light years, right? We're talking about like a billion light years. We're not going to see that much of a bend, and even if we could discern it, right? Because we're able to calculate how much it's bent, how much it's
Yeah.
refracted. Okay, so we would be able to figure out whether or not it's a gamma ray or an infrared ray, right? So we would be able to see, okay, over here we have gamma rays, right? Over here we have infrared rays, right? Normally
Yeah,
a sun emits both. However, in this instance, we're only seeing one. That's what we would see if there was a Dyson sphere, and we would be able to see this up to a billion light years away at least. So in a billion light years, why is there not a single alien species that's gotten that complex? Because that is the end of evolution.
Because
What do you mean, the end
well,
of evolution?
again, that's not the end of evolution. A planet could have life on it for this planet had life on it for billions of years, and only in the last couple hundred years has that life even had the capability of reaching out and sending detectable signals into the cosmos, right? So I reject the idea that a Dyson sphere is the end product of evolution, but also again, the reason we don't detect them. The reason we don't detect them is because we wouldn't have the resolution to be able to detect that. Like, we have detected gamma ray bursts, but we have not detected many of them. They're very, very difficult to find. And these gamma ray bursts we're detecting come from, like, supernova events from stars. Or they're emitted... Are they from supernovas, or are they from when black holes, they can emit gamma rays. Maybe it's both, but whatever. The amount of energy coming off of a supernova or from that would be a quasar, would be so many orders of magnitude more powerful than a Dyson sphere, and we only barely detect these. That the idea that we would detect Dyson spheres that are even in our closest galaxy is like totally no. We would not have the resolution to be able to detect that. It would be indiscernible from the regular what would you call that? Like the background noise of gamma radiation that's being produced by the collective hundreds of billions of stars inside of that galaxy.
And then, not to mention, if they're
the high
over
energy,
a billion light
high,
years away, like
But
you
I'll-
mentioned, we also
Yeah.
have the time factor. And then if we're trying to determine if there's an intelligent species by whether or not we're detecting a Dyson sphere, well, if anyone's trying to detect Dyson spheres, they're not going to look at us either then. So does that
Yeah.
mean we don't exist? No.
And, yeah, and then the final thing is like Dyson spheres are theoretical objects, so we don't actually know what their characteristics are. We don't know what all of their characteristics are. So, anyways, we can do about 5 more minutes, and then I literally have to go. I'm dying.
Okay.
Yeah, you're
I'm
good.
gonna
eat
So
anything.
if we're like 10 billion years old, and we can see 7 billion light years, right? So we could see things up to 7 billion years old, 7 billion
Yes,
light years
with
away.
extremely
So
low
that
resolution.
would be our how is it low resolution though if the rays don't change, right? Because infrared rays, I mean, obviously they do, but you
The
can
camera
Because-
resolution.
take the
You can-
refractory.
Or the
So
data
the
camera
resolution is
resolution.
if I were to take a special solar filter and look at the sun, then I'd be able to detect its corona. I'd be able to detect coronal mass ejections. I could see sunspots. If I were 1 light year away, I would not be able to do that unless I had a telescope that was the size of an extremely large planet. That's where, because again,
No,
the
that's
energy,
not what
the energy
you know what
coming
I'm talking
off
about
of
when I'm
it
talking about
drops
the
off
PV.
with the inverse of the square of the distance. So we can see stars with the naked eye that are tens of thousands of light years away, but at extremely low resolution.
That's not true. So the high energy.
How's that not true?
Because they can detect up to 7 billion light years away. That's what I've been saying.
Yes, at extremely low resolution. I can see stars that are thousands of
What are
light
you
years away
saying?
with the naked eye, but I cannot discern their mass, their diameter, whether or not there are planets going around them, if they have sunspots, because the resolution is too low. The energy coming off of
because
them
you can't
drops
detect
off
them, right?
exponentially with the square of the distance. So you're only getting not even a billionth of a percent of the energy or information, photons, like literal photons, from it. So it's extremely low resolution.
And not
But we
only that,
still
but
know
also
if
the
it's
actual, like the data detecting camera itself. That also
The
is going to have
resolution doesn't
issues.
matter.
The resolution matters so much. If you want to know
No.
if there's a Dyson sphere there,
Are we talking about like No, we don't have to see the Dyson sphere. We just have to detect the irregularity. That's what I'm saying. Like we would see a mix of gamma and infrared that doesn't fit our predeceived notions, right? Because we have
possibly.
studies and stuff.
So like for exoplanets, if we want to find life, we want to find using spectroscopy, we want to find a high oxygen signature, and then that would be good supporting evidence that there's probably something biological going on. Yeah, so
Isn't there currently
that I'm with you on.
studying does have it?
Sorry, what?
Aren't they currently studying a planet that they think might have it?
I'm
it's
sure
like
they're doing that
galaxy
with
planet.
hundreds of them, but we haven't made. If there were any breakthroughs in that, I guarantee it would be all over.
This is like something
everywhere.
like in the past. No, they haven't like found anything, but they're
Right.
looking a lot heavily at something right now. I just wanted to see if
Yeah.
you know what I was talking about.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
that-
I
that
know what
plan-
you're talking about. You're right. There's
Yeah,
something where they say it's a potential. They're not saying it's for sure one way or the other because obviously there's still work to be done. And I would be willing to stake on it that it's probably not a Dyson sphere that they have detected irregularities coming
No.
from.
No, I'm not saying that, but just that we've detected planets that we think have the capacity for life, right? Based off of what we've seen in the Stanley Miller experiment, we do know what the conditions are for life now. So even though we've seen planets with those conditions met, why is there not life that we're also seeing with it?
There could be. I mean, think if they're a billion light years away, like you were saying. Well, billion light years seems like a a big number, but if they're
Andromeda's
so
only
far
2
away,
million light years away. We can just use Andromeda.
yeah, we'll use 2 million. That's a real example. Even if we're looking there, for example, and see a planet that could potentially have life, where were we 2 million years ago? Right?
Yeah,
We're not
Oh,
gonna.
that's
yeah.
also a good point.
Well, are we going to have things that outlive us, though? That's really the question if we're asking that. And I think with AI, we probably will, right? I mean, unless you want to have a debate about that.
No, I have to go eat.
All right, all right.
We're just
All right,
starving
take
you.
care, guys.
Yeah, keep up the good work. That was a good conversation.